Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Black Lion Foundation's weekly mentorship meeting. Tonight I have a very esteemed guest, Mr. James Burroughs. We are very honored that James was here to join us. James, you want to just introduce yourself and then we can kind of get going? Just tell us what your position is and so forth.
Sure. Thanks, James. I was glad to be here. My name is James Burroughs. I'm glad to be asked to be here and share who I am. I'm Vice President of Equity and Inclusion at Children's Minnesota Hospital. We have about 5,000 employees, and my job is to make sure we are a very diverse employee base that's racially, LGBTQ, people with disabilities, and also to make sure we spend our money in communities that we serve. So people of color own businesses, as well as making sure that, most importantly, James, that our patients and families who are from racially diverse backgrounds have a good healthcare experience. We know that racism exists in all forms and fashion, but it truly exists in healthcare. And if you come in to get healthcare for yourself or your family, the last thing you want to do is experience a racist or non-inclusive culture. So that's the other part that I do, and I'm glad to do it. I enjoy my work, and my CEO, Dr. Mark Gorlick, is one who invests in this work, and I like the fact that he invested in me.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate it. James and I, we were talking off the camera here briefly before we started, and we were just talking about mentorship and things like that, and how we both have such a passion for mentorship, and we're going to put a challenge out there for a lot of the other middle-aged brothers out there is to join us in bringing on some of these young people, and let's help to encourage them and lift them up and to teach them, and then later on in a different presentation, I'll tell you about what I have planned next. But we're going to get back to Mr. Burroughs. Now, James, tell us, what is your passion?
Good question. My passion is equity, and let me explain what that is. So equity can be equity in stocks and in bonds and finance, equity in your home. Not exactly that type of equity, but it's similar in the sense that equity to me is giving each person what they need to be successful. And what relates to racial equity, as you already know, we've been in this land of America for a long time. Some say 1619, but actually we got here before 1619, but the official books say 1619. And we brought here for slavery, chattel slavery, and other things like that. We went through segregation, Jim Crow, a lot of other things as well. And for me, racial equity is how do we make sure that we address the needs of people who experience that to make sure they have same economic opportunities, employment opportunities, housing opportunities, and opportunities to be what they want to be and give them what they need to be successful. So when I talk about equity, my passion is around making sure that people who have been marginalized, people who have been treated in a racist way, people who have been treated in a sexist way or discriminatory way, get the opportunity to be successful. Minnesota has some of the highest racial disparities in the country in all aspects of what we do. I want to make sure that doesn't stay that way under my watch.
Brother, that is awesome. Man, I was wondering if I was listening to myself there for a minute.
We share a lot in common.
Well, tell us this. Tell us the James Burroughs story. I know it's a great story. So tell our young people out there the James Burroughs story.
Sure, I'll give you the short version. So, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and I'm very proud of that. Born in the 60s in Detroit, Michigan, and when I was born in 1967, that summer there were racial riots in Detroit, and those racial riots were because Martin Luther King was assassinated, and also too in July of that year we also had race riots related to police brutality. So when people look at things like George Floyd, Philando Castile, and others, that police brutality has been going on for quite a while, and that police brutality ended up police shooting I want to say about 4 or 5 black people in an after-hours club. Unjustifiably. So there was racial riots, things happened, and then James Burroughs was born as part of that in October of that year. Detroit raised me, made me, and taught me who to be who I am. And what I mean by that is I was used to growing up with black dentists, black lawyers, black doctors, black grocery store owners, black pool hall owners, barbershop owners. And I say that to say this. I saw people who looked like me who were successful, and that made me think I could be anything I wanted to be. There were no limits to what I had to be. Now, I also saw cats who were drug dealers. I also cats who were, robbers and thieves. I also saw cats who did the other things other than the positive things I talked about. So I had choices, what we talked about earlier. So I made the choice to stay close to academics and sports. So I played high school football, was all city 1 year, and did some good things in the community. When it came time for college, I wanted to go to play football for Bo Schembechler. Now, y'all too young to remember what that is, but he used to coach University of Michigan when we had a good football team. We don't anymore. But I wanted to go play for him, and I wanted to go to junior college first, get some experience, and go bulk up and go play for him. My mama said no. She said, I'm paying for college, so therefore you're going to Morehouse College. And I said, Mama, I don't want to go to Morehouse College. She said, I heard about it, but I don't want to go there. And I got down there, and Morehouse looks better now for those who want to go to college there. But in the 80s, it looked like the projects. It looked like most black colleges at the time. It looked like something you want to send your kid to. So I got down there, acquiesced to what Mama said, had a horrible first semester, got a 2-point-something grade point average, wanted to transfer. But then something clicked. And during that certain clicked, I went and said, okay, you know what, I need to do better for me and people who look like me in Detroit, and also for my mom. And ended up graduating there with 3.4 grade point average, went on to Georgetown Law School and became a lawyer, and then came to Minnesota, been here like 29 years now. Wow, time flies. Practiced law for a while, worked some nonprofits, and found my way to Children's Hospital after working in the governor's office and meeting your lovely bride, Kim Holmes, working for Governor Mark Dayton. So that's me in a nutshell, man. From Detroit all the way up, and for me, I've always loved and cared about us, and that's black people. So I continue to try to do that as much as I can.
That is awesome, brother. As you know, we both are passionate about mentorship. What is it about sponsorship/mentorship that's important to you?
So I think the most important thing to me, James, is that people learn the distinction between mentorship and sponsorship. So if I'm your mentor, hopefully it's working this way. I'm learning from you as a mentee, you're teaching me as a mentor, and I'm teaching you some things as well. And all those things don't have to be said, but you can just learn from the way I roll, how I act. One of my favorite sayings is, you can preach a sermon every day, but I can see one, I can better understand what you say. So that's important, seeing that in action. That's what a mentor does. To me also, too, as sponsor, and this is what I try to do to a lot of people, is if I see a job opportunity, or talk about Black Lion, if somebody wants to buy a vehicle, and I say to myself, man, I should send them up the street to the Range Rover, the Audi dealer, they want to buy a used vehicle, whatever, and I don't say anything about you. That's not sponsorship. I'm sponsoring, I'm pushing my chips on the table to say, you know what, I believe in James and Black Lion, I'm sponsoring him, I'm going to bet on him, and he's going to get the job done. And that's what sponsors do. They take a chance, they take a risk, and they invest in you. Now, if somebody invests in you as a sponsor and you drop the ball, go to football analogy, you still get a chance to run it again, but just don't fumble it again. So if you keep fumbling the ball, what happens? You get put on the bench.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with color.
Right, exactly.
We still need excellence.
Exactly. So I'm sponsoring you, you drop the ball 3 times, we're going to have no conversation, and we're going to figure it out until you get ready to accept that sponsorship. So to me, that's why I love mentorship and sponsorship, and I've been able to blessedly sponsor and mentor quite a few folks in the city since I've been here.
Mm-hmm. Most of you guys out there that have been following Black Lion, you know generally, hopefully, kind of how I started with the auto dealership about 1.5 years ago, and then that auto dealership was doing initial funding for the Black Lion Foundation, which we thought really about now is when we really start kicking that off. But due to the George Floyd murder, we moved that up and we actually started a lot earlier. So I literally started working really hard on the foundation the day after the George Floyd murder. And I think a lot of you guys out there probably have documented some of that, I would assume. If not, you can go to blacklionfoundation.com and get caught up. But that really got me going because it hit a raw nerve with me. And I was doing the things that I would be doing, it's just that it moved it up and it accelerated for me. So with you, how did the George Floyd murder impact you, your work, and your family?
It impacted me a lot. One of the things is it's 8 minutes and 46 seconds of the taking of a life of a black man that brought everything back to me about what it must have been like in this country when white people weren't prosecuted for taking our lives. So whether it be Emmett Till, whether it be the assassination of our great leader, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and supposedly the guy was arrested, and supposedly that was the only person involved. But we know better than that. Medgar Evers and others, when they were, you could take a black man's life and nothing been done. So that came back to me watching that 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It meant a lot to me that our CEO, I talked about earlier, Dr. Mark Gorlick, at first he didn't watch the video, and he's a white guy from New York. And I said, no, you need to watch it. You need to see the impact that has on me as a black man and what the impact that's going to have on you just to see that. He watched it, and he said, man, I've never seen anything like that, and we got to do something about it. So for me, the impact of George Floyd was, I've been doing equity work and racial diversity work for a long time and other types of diversity, but I was like, you know what, we got to do something different to sustain this long term. So impact work-wise, we doubled down on making sure that we invested in black-owned businesses. We doubled down on recruiting board members who were black to our foundation board and our corporate board. We doubled down on increasing black executive leaders in our leadership as well. Family-wise, it caused me to think my 8-year-old daughter, she had already gone through Philando Castile because her dad was working for the governor when Philando Castile was murdered, and we were at a great impact in that, the Governor Dayton did and his team. So I had to explain to her again that not all cops are like this, but there's a system that exists that treats black men differently. I had to teach her about that and teach her to learn that. And then from a community standpoint, I realized that I needed to be more visible. And what I mean by that, James, is this. A lot of times I'll do things in silence. I talk about times that real community people, or I'm a Q, you're an alpha. I gave a speech at the Founders Day one time and said, real Qs move in silence. Nobody needs to know I'm a Q. I can do this, do that, serve community, and do it well.
I was wondering how long that would take.
You know it won't take long. It won't take long. You know what's going to come out.
Go ahead. That's all right. We got nothing but love for you.
Exactly. Y'all got the first black senator now. I got to give you credit for that, Ralph Warnock. So, but it's like, for me...
Morehouse man.
He is. I had to realize, too, that if I don't promote what I do, remember I told you growing up in the Tri, I saw everybody look like me doing well? Mm-hmm. Other people who come behind me won't know that. They'll be like, oh, who's this James Burroughs guy? So I made the effort to, after George Floyd, all the things that we were doing, make sure I got out in the community, my face was there, show people what we're doing, show them how to do it, mentor more people, sponsor more people. Because sometimes people looking at you and trying to be like you that you don't even know. And you be influence the young cat who's 15, 16, 17, or a cat who's 30-something, but like, I'm going to change my life around because of what I saw. So that's what impacted me too, and making sure I get more exposure to what I do. Not because of my ego, because folks need to see that a brother from Detroit can do this, who was raised in the middle class. Middle class in Detroit means this, that we got food stamps and cheese, but we still consider ourselves middle class. But it also shows that you can do anything you want to do, no matter where you come from.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. That is, we stand on that every day. Every week, man. Today was an interesting day, huh, James? Today was an interesting day. What do you call it? Insurrection at the White House?
Coup d'etat.
At the White House?
Yes.
You see any double standards there, James?
How long is this show? I'll say this. Those who don't believe in white supremacy and white privilege, today's ability of mostly white, I didn't see many, I saw one black guy, but mostly white individuals to overtake our United States Capitol, where I used to work 20 years ago. I was a clerk for a senator from Georgia, as a matter of fact, then, that has high security, armed guards, all that. For that to be overtaken by a group of white Americans with flags, and nothing be done. One person I think was shot. Mm-hmm. But other than that, they broke through windows, were sitting on the Senate floor. Sitting in Nancy Pelosi's seat. Cheesing, taking selfies. Exactly. I'm about to say. And if we were...
I'm not making that up.
Exactly. No. And if there were 5 black men, forget about the whole... 30,000, 5 black men doing that, it would have been a different story.
It wouldn't even been one bullet either.
No.
Probably get hit with about 30 apiece.
Absolutely.
And then ask questions later.
Yeah.
That's just our reality.
Yep.
And I don't think that's going to change today, tomorrow, next week, next year. So what I try to emphasize with a lot of young people I work with is don't get pulled down into the mud and distractions. We know it's there, okay, but we still have other work to do. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about it is discrimination and racism has been around a long time. So it's not going to end tomorrow. So that being said, it doesn't mean that you stop, we talked about this earlier, persevering. It doesn't mean that you stop, achieving and getting what is yours. It doesn't mean you stop even when you're knocked down 2 or 3 times and experience discrimination. Think about it, man. If we would have stopped during slavery and gave up, we would have stopped during Jim Crow segregation and gave up. If we'd have stopped when they said the Voting Rights Act applies in its law, but really you go down south, we're going to have these tests for you. You got to pass this test. The math test, the reading test, the made-up test I give you before you can vote, and you still can't vote. If we had given up, we wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't be celebrating Kamala Harris or Ralph Warnock or celebrating Stacey Abrams and how she got all those people to Georgia to vote. So to your point, we can't give up and realize that discrimination exists, and then focus on how do we change these policies, laws, but also too how you show up in the place. The reason that, bias exists sometimes because somebody gets one impression of the one black person they met, and then that's how they're going to treat all black people. But if you show up in a place, in a space that CEO or that leader says, man, James, I didn't know that you do these things. I didn't know you read the same books I read. I didn't know you read more books than I've read. I didn't know that you could do all these things related to finance and auto lending and building a foundation, that you know how to do that. Man, okay. I'm thinking differently about a whole race of people. So warning, if you're a brother or sister, you are reflecting the whole race by what you do. It ain't fair, it ain't right, but what you do, the person behind you will either get an opportunity to do it or they won't because of how you show up. So that's real important for folks to show up in a good place in a space and realize that racism can't stop them from doing what they want to do.
Amen. James Burroughs. All right, y'all. You see why we got him here. Matter of fact, this brother, he will tell you, I pursued him for a while to get him on camera in front of our people because I knew that you guys needed to hear his message. I knew that, and I'm grateful for you, James. I really appreciate it. I know it's going to reach plenty of people, touch people, even if it's just a couple tidbits that they pull, or even just a nice little solid piece of philosophy to start building their foundation. But before we go, do you have any parting words of encouragement for our young people out there, James?
I say this, I'd say make sure that you get involved with this brother here and other brothers and sisters as mentors and sponsors. Not everyone is for everybody, so it doesn't have to be you like James or you like this James, but find somebody that you can learn from. The other thing is make sure that you uplift someone else as you're climbing that mountain. One of the things that your fraternity, my fraternity, and all these other fraternities and sororities is we uplift others while we climb, because if we're the only one in the room, once we leave the room, it goes back to no black people in the room. So if I don't make a way for you, you got to do the same, uplift people. And then the last thing is have a sense of faith and purpose. Your God might not be my God, your religion might not be my religion, but there's something that's driving you and your faith and your purpose behind that. Make sure that you're centered on that and take care of your soul and your well-being. A lot of times we as black people, as we talked about earlier, don't get a chance to sit down and talk and work with each other. So I want to make sure we do that as well.
James Burroughs, we appreciate you a bunch. And once again, on behalf of Black Lion Foundation, thank you very much, James. You're awesome.
Thank you.